Here.
All right, sorry about that. Move to item number 2, Budget Finance Committee update, Trustee Williams. And make sure we cover those mics.
I asked for this item to be on the agenda. I asked for this item to be on the agenda at the direction of the mayor, because I know that, as we all remember from the board meeting last week, there were some concerns about accounts payable, specifically with the immediate checks, and there was lots of discussion back and forth. At that time, I had asked for the Budget and Finance Committee to meet, because up until that time, we had not had a formal meeting that would be able to kind of resolve some of these issues. I asked for attendance and people to check their schedules on that night, didn't hear anything. Sent out another email on Friday, didn't hear anything, and then did actually get an email from Trustee Tates yesterday, and he did say that he was not going to be participating in the Budget Finance Committee at this time. So, because of that, I looked for information to kind of see where we could go from here. I think that the Budget and Finance Committee has been kind of stalled, and I think that some of the problems and concerns that the board has had could have been alleviated if we would have been able to meet. And it saddens me that we have not been able to meet, considering there are multiple trustees, including Trustee Tates, who have often brought up financial problems, financial concerns, financial transparency. We need to do this, we need to do that. And because the committee as a whole has not met, we have not been able to do that. So the meeting was planned for today at 4 o'clock, because that was when the finance director could make it, because he's an integral part, obviously. And we were not able to have a formal meeting today because I was not aware until that time that we could actually proceed with the meeting. And I'm still looking for guidance as far as when the standing committees were presented, there was a chair and a co-chair. And it was stated that the meeting cannot be held unless both are present. Now, I don't know how that works with a chair or a co-chair declining to be a part of the committee, so I'm still looking for guidance on that. But I did take the opportunity, since I knew that both of the employees, the village administrator, as well as the finance director were going to be here today, I did take the opportunity to meet with them as a trustee to ask some questions. Some of the things that, as we all remember, last Tuesday, with the immediate checks, I was the trustee that asked that we continue with payroll and liabilities because I wanted to make sure that our employees got paid. But I was concerned about the immediate checks, not because I didn't understand what was happening, but because my fellow trustees had concerns. So I think that as a board, we have concerns, but they need to be addressed. So if you all should have a packet in front of you. And one of the things that was worked on today was an example of explanations. What you'll find on here, the second page, the second and third page, are the immediate checks that were discussed. Again, this is a sample. This is not something that has been enacted as of yet. But this is something that would be attached to your accounts payable should there be an immediate check written. And it would tell you what account it's charged to, the ones that are pending for board approval, what account it would be charged to, the total amount, why it would be used as far as like the first one says, The mayor caucus, this is for membership dues, it's $472.77 is charged to, this account. These would be the ones that would be pending approval. If you flip to the next page, these are the hand checks that have been previously approved by the board. And you'll see, Alan Magnuson, this is something that we have as the mayor stated that night, we stated in other occasions, this isn't even our money. This is something that's for the IEP loan we have to pay back. So because that's why it states that it was approved 4/1/2013. When we accepted this, we approved to pay it back. One of the things that I did discuss with Mr. Fairman and Mr. Rowe, and I know that to not bring too much out of other conversations that the board may have had, there may be a difference of opinion as far as what has been previously approved by the board and what has not been previously approved by the board. It is true. April 1st, 2013, the board decided that yes, we would accept this loan, we will pay back this money. So while that was discussed and while that was approved at that time, it's still important that the board is aware of what we have to pay this amount at this time. That's why we put it on accounts payable. Because of the way mindset was happening with the people who were here every day, the mindset is the board's discussed it, they discussed the payback schedule, they know how much money we took, they know how much money we have to pay back. So because it's been approved, we can write this check. We will put on accounts payable, so it's part of the record, but it's already been approved because it's been discussed prior. Okay? That was the rationale. That is why, as I've stated multiple times, there needs to be a policy and procedure. We need to make sure that going forward, that the board remains informed. I think that this form is very useful. I think it explains a lot. It explains, what's the amount, what it's for, when the board discussed it, as kind of a refresher, what account it's being charged to. And I think that it's important that the board stays informed. I'm not the finance director, but I don't necessarily like the fact that on Tuesdays, when we've all had our packets available to us with the accounts payable since Friday, that there's a battery of questions thrown at the finance director. And unfortunately, he doesn't have his desk and his computer and his 14 file cabinets with him at his table so he can process all that information. I don't think it's fair. And I think that we as trustees have to take the responsibility to review our accounts payable and contact him, phone, email, carrier pigeon, whatever we need to do to ask those questions before the board meeting. Because there's often times where we might get questions asked of us and we might not have the answers readily available. And it's not fair, in my opinion. So one of the things that I asked for the finance director is to see if accounts payable could be available as of Thursday, the week before. In my opinion, that gives each board member 2 business days. Because I know last board meeting, it was discussed, I don't pick up my packet until Sunday, that only gives me till Monday. What if I don't have time on Monday? Okay, well, I asked the finance director if he would be able to adjust his schedule to get his accounts payable in the boxes by Thursday at 5. That gives you all day Friday, all day Monday to have it, read it, go through it, and be able to contact him via phone or email to ask the questions and allow him the time to either answer you then or come prepared with your answers to the board meeting. And he said that he wouldn't have a problem with doing that. We're hoping for the tentative date to start that out on November 1st. And I think that way he would be able to be prepared instead of putting him on the spot, which I don't think is fair. Also, we talk about immediate checks, and we talk about, a lot of people may have problems with immediate checks. Again, some of these things were things that we've already talked about, approved as a board, and that's where you have the date here. There are some things that come up that are emergencies. One of the things that we talked about in our meeting today, in our conversation today, was that there are certain things that we know are gonna happen. We know that we have to pay insurance. We know that we have to pay a light bill. We know that we have to pay certain things. We talked about being, as an administration, being able to look further into the future so we can plan better, so there could possibly eliminate the need for so many immediate checks. Now I know because of financing, because of having money in the actual accounts, we may not know that we have the money to pay X bill until it's right before the due date, and we'd rather not incur a late fee. In a situation like that, these things happen. But if we prepare properly previously, then hopefully we would be able to eliminate immediate checks. But we still need to have an ordinance, a resolution, something put into place that says we give the authority to the finance director, the village administrator, the mayor, whomever, to be able to authorize these checks. If we come in, there was an example that was brought up earlier, if we come in and the police department can't get gas because we're out of gas at Public Works and they won't deliver any more to us unless we pay this. That's an immediate problem. That doesn't classify for having an emergency board meeting though. There's only certain things you can have an emergency board meeting for, so then do not have police officers driving the streets until we have another board meeting. What if it's the fourth Wednesday of the month? We don't have another meeting for 2 weeks. We just, oh well, you guys have to walk, or maybe both heads, rollerblades, something like that. That's not appropriate. We cannot tie the hands of our employees that we pay a lot of money to every 2 weeks to do their jobs. We have to give them the ammunition to do their jobs, but we have to set limits. And I don't have a problem with that. But we have to be able to let them use their judgment that we paid them for, that we hired them for, to say, this is something we can do. But, that being said, the board still needs to be informed. If the village is writing an immediate check for gas, I said, I think that the board needs to have email sometime. I think the board needs to be informed in some sort of way. I like this form, I really do, and I think that this is beneficial. If you look at the letter on the first page, it says right here that you'll see that the first hand check document will detail hand checks previously approved by the board and their approval date. These are actually stapled in the wrong order. But you'll see that will refer to the last page. The second part where it says the second hand check document will detail hand checks pending board approval. Once approval is obtained, these approved hand checks will be issued within 48 hours. So that would be the first page right here where it says pending approval. Now what we plan to work out as the committee, depending on how that's going to be formalized and how we can move forward, is to determine how that approval can be obtained. It is not illegal or immoral, or it does not go against Robert's Rules of Order to get a consensus via email. I personally like email. There's a paper trail. You can say that at this date, at this time, I sent you this, you sent me that, there's no questions about it. So I don't think that a consensus via email is inappropriate in the least. But that's not something that has been decided upon by the committee yet, because we haven't had a real meeting yet. But this will be a way that, again, it's going to involve forward thinking, but this will be a way where the finance director can know that this is something coming up. We don't have time to wait to a board meeting, so I can't put it on an executive session. But I really, the board, know that this check needs to be paid. I need you to respond to me in 48 hours, which I think is plenty of time as a trustee. It's our responsibility. If you want to claim that we have fiscal responsibility, then we need to be responsible. 48 hours is plenty enough time to get back to the finance director and say yes or no, and then it will be sent out. These are rough drafts, these are rough policies, but this is something that we're looking into, and to make sure that we can kind of alleviate this from happening again in the future. This is what I would like to be an ordinance. So like I said in executive session, there's no question. There's no, can we do this? There's no, why this person did this? That needs to be in black and white. The other thing that we will be looking to discuss is emergencies. Every day, day-to-day things, there needs to be a cap. maybe 5,000, maybe 2,000, maybe 1,000. That's the highest it can go per check. But what was brought up was, what if we have a huge fire? What if we have a huge water main break and we need to buy a piece of equipment to fit, 10% of our homes in Sauk Village are out of water or are damaged and we need to do something immediately. Again, we don't have time to have a board meeting. It's over the $5,000 limit. What do we do then? And that's when you have to have a clause in there that says up to this limit and for these reasons, these people can say, go ahead and pay something. And then it needs to be presented to the board. So that's what we talked about. And also just, I know that I said this before, but I kind of want to know how to proceed as the committee chair. As far as, can I just continue on my own and then have an actual formal meeting where I can actually post an agenda? Because I couldn't do that in enough time this time? Or what's going to happen?
Any questions, comments?
So,
Trustee Myers?
we are, none of the document
Your mic's not on.
go in front of the.
It's not.
None of the documents will go on to the finance committee itself, or I missed that part. The finance committee would first approve all these bills first before it went in. Or the finance director would receive the amount and just send that out to the trustees for their opinion.
As of right now, what would happen is if the finance director received an invoice, it would go to the board as a whole. It was discussed that it might come through the finance committee and then they would give the approval, but it's a little, I don't know if that's really what should happen. So it's something that we've talked about. But as of right now, just like what happened before, there'd be an invoice, the immediate check would be up to a certain amount, would be written, and then the board would be informed.
And we would have 48 hours to get back to the director on our opinion, yes, no.
Yes. I suggested that there should be a clause in the ordinance, and as well as on every email, that states, I need this check paid. Please respond back to me within 48 hours. Your lack of response is saying that you agree. Because I think it holds us as accountable. I think that, I know that there's issues with emails, and I think that that needs to be rectified immediately, but that holds the board accountable to say, if you don't have time to check your emails on a daily basis and you're a board member and it's a village email, then that, to me, my opinion, that's your bad. You can't claim that you want financial responsibility and that you want to keep the village fiscally transparent and then not participate in the process, because then you become part of the problem.
Do you know, is it statutes that, let's say that he asks for approval or $20,000 for the gas, and through the email, do you have any idea if that is acceptable through the state statute? Because the reason I asked this question, this came from a conference that we sent out emails to some other directors asking to pay $20,000 on an item, and we was informed by our attorney general that we couldn't do that. It did not apply to the statutes. So I'd like to know, have you checked in the attorneys on this yet?
Once the ordinance is completed, then it'll go to the attorneys. But from what I know, there is no state statute that says you could not get a consensus through your board meeting. So just because, as we all know, you've been to an open meeting, your emails, your personal emails, your village emails, they're all a part of the village record. So this would just be another way of getting consensus, just like we would get a consensus
you're asking for a ordinance or you're asking for a overall policy that be put into the policy and procedure handbook?
Both. I think that it needs to be both, because with an ordinance, that's when you get into, as we discussed earlier,
Right.
that's when you get into the possible of reprimanding if it's violated and things like that.
I think though, your policy will set your guidelines.
Right.
Your, so your ordinance will set the amounts and your guidelines. Your policies are put in place for your employees and for a direction to be followed.
Right.
So when you say I'm gonna put a policy and a policy's in place, saying these are the steps that you have to do. When you get to your ordinance is you're gonna say you're gonna follow those steps in your policy, but you're only allowed to do it up to a certain amount of money. So when we talk about ordinances, that's the limit.
And that is clear, 'cause I don't know, from what you were saying, I'm not sure that it was clear. It would be, according to this, it would be that the finance director or the village administrator would have the authority to authorize immediate checks up to X amount. Anything over that would be prior board approval before going out. That would be the idea behind this.
And I think the committee needs to come together and put that together, number one. Number two, I think, again, when we form these committees, we put 2 trustees on every committee. The trustees, are in a committee, which a committee is a recommendation board to the board of trustees. And when we get into like, if we're going to call it an emergency check or call it a hand check or there's bills that need to be paid, again, I think the committee needs to look at it. What I'm thinking is the committee should make a recommendation to the board that we go ahead and issue these checks prior to being voted on, if it's something that needs to be paid. Because you want your recommendation from your committee. It's no difference on any of the other committees, and we're talking about budget and finance right now, but, ordinance review committee, they go through ordinances, they mark them up, they come back and say, we're making a recommendation, this is what should be passed. Remember also, make sure you look at the ordinance when we form these committees, that, the committees have the opportunity to bring an ordinance to the board, but it's supposed to be with both the chair and the co-chair are supposed to be in agreement before it can come to the board, okay? See if there's a problem where you're not meeting. Now, when we form these committees, I make it very clear that we're all adults, and that there should be no problems with not having a meeting because one or either or would not attend. If it's the case, then I will remove committee members and try to find trustees that want to be a part of these committees and reappoint, okay? I took a lot of flack because everyone said the mayor's not appointing committees. We went off to appointing committees, and it's pretty sad to hear that the Budget and Finance Committee has not met since. We sat up here and I got blasted because the mayor didn't form committees. All right, so, I'll give you 2 grown adults. I will give you 1 week to come up with a date and time when you can meet. If not, I will appoint a new trustee. Okay? And
Then, I spoke with the village administrator and the finance director and scheduled a meeting, I have another meeting here next Tuesday at 10, so I scheduled a meeting for 11 o'clock. So, ideally, that is when we would like to meet next Tuesday at 11.
I'm gonna tell you right, I don't care when you meet. I'm telling you right now, before you go home here tonight, both of you get together, find out your guys' schedules. Remember, you have 48 hours in advance to have them posted. And you need to get your meetings.
That's what I'm saying right now. Right now, it's scheduled for Tuesday at 11.
I'm telling you,
So,
I'm telling you,
I'm asking the trustee-
I'm telling you to get together. And let's do it this way, get together, and I want to see an agenda pop up, because according to the ordinance, I can attend. If I'm around, I'm going to come to your meeting.
Absolutely, but I have asked the trustee at board meeting, I've asked them individually, I've sent them meetings. So this is something that we had a big, huge meeting about it on Tuesday, executive session was brought up about it, and this is something that I'm gonna be a part of it, chair, co-chair, carrier pigeon member, then I'm not gonna let it die. So I'm asking, a meeting has been scheduled for Tuesday at 11. My question to trustee States is, A, if you're available for that, and now we need to change it, or a fee if you're sticking by your email and saying that you no longer would like to be a part of the Budget and Finance Committee. Because if that's your choice, fine, but then, Mr. Mayor, I ask if he states that he's declining again, then we try to reappoint so we can go forward, because I don't want to be stagnant.
Okay, so based off that information, the trustee is declining to participate in the Budget and Finance Committee, is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding? Okay, so I will need a copy of the email so we make sure we have it part of the record effective to those clerk. And just so the board knows, I will be sending out, I will ask trustees if you want to participate in this committee, please come see me. And then I will present another trustee to go to this committee because it's important that this committee is up and running.
So should I cancel the meeting scheduled for next Tuesday? 11?
Next Tuesday, yeah, at 11, yes, you'll have to because we won't meet again until next Tuesday.
All right, I'll send an email out.
I have a question. Yes, I have a question, Trustee Williams. And has there been anything looked into the immediate checks, once they're presented, that we get a copy of where they were taken from, out of which line item they were come? I mean, the last time we had immediate checks,
This is what you're presenting, right? Pardon me? This is what she's presenting. Yeah.
no, I'm just talking about in the future of, I'm not talking about this particular one, I'm talking about immediate checks, period.
This would be the practice going forward. We're
No.
going to tell you what account was charged.
Okay, that's okay, because it just gives numbers instead of giving the account line item name. You know, budget, I'm sorry,
Police and fire.
police and fire,
Okay.
administration, elected officials, things like that. Can we,
So description.
Okay.
a description of where it came from the immediate check? Accounts payable does tell that. But with the immediate checks, it's shown that it was paid, but out of which one, that's something that I would love to see. And also, there were some things that I don't think the categorization, I don't think it's categorized, but I need to find out. Are the consultant's fee part of payroll or is it a consultant? Because I don't think the two are the same. If you're a consultant and you get paid as a consultant, then it should come out of the different departments that it comes out of. It shouldn't have a headline as payroll. Because when we had consultants, when we had the lobbyists, it came out of a specific line item. So if the consultants come out of several line items, then just put that on there that it comes out of, which line items it comes out of. So I think that we should, at least itemize that part of it. Thank you.
All right, and just so we know that the practice as of today will continue until we get a policy in place that's been eliminated for any type of hand checks. So I've made it very clear we're going to stop until we get this policy in place because the board has a problem with the way it was handled. Again, it kind of puts the village in a position that it could delay things from happening. It could make it where things don't happen. If you look, one of these checks that were issued was so that a police and fire commissioner could go take some training that she provided and said, I just received this information, I'd like to receive this training. So that was one of the hand checks. So the police and fire commissioner was Commissioner Linda Ross. There's things that happen day to day. As everyone knows, we're a multi-million-dollar business here. But if the board wants to make it where hand checks are not issued, and I've made the statement, and I'll say it out here, be careful what you ask for, because you get what you asked for, but lost what you had. There's going to be times when, as board members in your committees, you're going to need hand checks written. Because of this, you won't get those hand checks. I just want to make sure we're clear on that one. The other thing is, the village administrator is already working on a policy, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks at the next committee meeting, they'll be able to have that policy before you. That he's going to be working with the Finance and Budget and Finance Committee, because they're the ones that's going to be putting together the ordinance that they're going to be presenting to the board. So hopefully, you'll have enough time. I know you're working on your own right now, trustee, but if you can start the legwork so when you get your new committee member, you guys can hit the ground running, because I'd like to see you come back in 2 weeks in agreement with something presented to this board, so we can see a policy and an ordinance at the same time. And they should complement each other. You should remember that. And then, there was something on my camera, as a trustee Jones had a question or comment.
So with the handshakes, if could, it wouldn't be handshakes at that point, but could they be approved with the consensus?
The answer is no. This board has made it very clear they no longer want consensus. So I am trying to stay my best and do my best not to ask for consensus. And again, there's going to be emergencies where I may have to contact the board for something if something comes up. And like I said, we're a large business here. But I'm doing my best not to come before the board anymore and asking for consensus. So, and I won't even acknowledge a consensus, I'll be honest with you, if this board asks for one. So.
I'm sorry, you said you want to acknowledge a consensus? If the board says that we consent to this, you want to acknowledge that? That's what you're saying?
I won't acknowledge to ask for a consensus because this board has made it very clear they do not want to have a consensus any longer. So until this board comes back to me in unison and says that you want consensus votes brought back to this board, I'm not going to be asking for any.
If the board presents you with a consensus, say they present you 4 to 5 to 1, that they want a certain thing done, are you saying that you want to acknowledge that?
I'm saying that the board says they don't want consensus any longer, or a consensus vote. So, it's either, again, I admit, I said at the beginning, be careful what you ask for, because you may get what you ask for and lose what you have. So, you're not going to come to me and say, no, we're not going to have consensus. I don't want consensus. Consensus is wrong. And then all of a sudden come back to me 2 weeks later and ask for a consensus. Because if it's wrong today, and you're saying it's wrong today, then it's going to be wrong 2 weeks from now.
But Mayor, I don't know if you have that type of power. If your board says they want to do this and you say no,
All right,
how can you do that?
if you want to vote, no, if the board votes on it,
That's what I'm saying. If the board says that they want certain thing and they have a,
well, when the board has the right to vote, which is the second, fourth Tuesdays, you'll have that right to vote and approve it. Trustee?
I know that there's some question, Trustee Washington asked if that, we remember that happening. Yes, there was a situation, a couple situations where a few trustees stated that asking for a consensus was not appropriate, and a lot of which had to do with finances. And again, that is why we're trying to present this. But I would ask that, well, first, also I'm going to state that, as I stated in executive session, it's just me, my personal opinion, that if trustees state that they don't want something or they don't like something, if that's been a past practice or if that's a part of how business has run, until there's been an actual change in policy, in my opinion, it should continue either way. So if there were certain trustees that did not like consensus, in my opinion, they should present a policy to the board to change that. Because I'm not sure how we can proceed, because we all understand there's a need for media checks. There's emergencies, things happen, we need media checks. So we can't proceed with immediate checks unless there's an opportunity for consensus to happen. So I think that maybe 2 trustees vocalized maybe not wanting consensus. Maybe there was 3 or 4. I'm not sure, but I think that that's something that the board needs to revisit, because the mayor was told, we don't want it, we don't want consensus, this isn't the right way, blah, 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 blah. The problem is just like Trustee Burgess stated, there's going to come a time when there's going to be the need for a consensus. So we can't have our cake and eat it too.
And trustee, you might want to make sure that if they were to have something inside the policy that you're developing or the ordinance, because until it is in writing, we're no longer going to go forward with consensus. And again, and I say consensus where it comes to, at a committee meeting, usually we used to look around the room and say, do we have consensus to move forward on this? Or you might get something, we have consensus, go ahead and pay this, we got to pay this bill. if this is the way the board wants to run, if you want to wait till your second and fourth Tuesday to vote on something, that's fine.
And all I'm asking is that we remember that, because there will be something in the policy that states that there will be a need for consensus. To answer your question, Trustee Jones, there will be, if it's an emergency enough where we have to, it's over that limit, and there's a point where we have to pay something immediately, obviously we can't do that without a consensus. So that will be a part of the policy, because it'll be necessary. So I know that from what I can recall, the consensus items were primarily about finance. I'm hoping that this will rectify that. So we all have an understanding of how the consensus will work as it comes to finance. And everything else, I think we as a board need to be careful before we do blanket statements. No more consensus. No more this. No more that. Because it's pertinent to one situation. It's pertinent to one person. But when we say no more as a board, don't come back and say that you want it this way. Just like a couple of weeks ago, we didn't want to meet on something and vote on it the same night. And then when we had the opportunity to discuss it beforehand, there was an issue. And I just ask that we be a little bit more cautious and understand that as a village, we have people who are here day to day, and it's their jobs to run the village. I am not a finance director. I don't plan on becoming one, ever. So I'm not going to tell Mohammed how to do his job. If we're paying him to do his job, we need to allow him to do his job. If he's not doing his job correctly, then that's when we step in as a board. And that's when we do proper discipline, and we do what we need to do. But until those proper discipline steps have taken place, and until anybody has identified any wrongdoing, then we allow the man to do his job. That's all I'm asking. It's not fair. You wouldn't want to be on your job and be told by somebody who doesn't even do your job they're doing it wrong because they have no idea. I don't know how to run a $26 million company, so I'm not going to know how to. So I just think I want to please make sure that we keep that in the back of our heads, that this policy will talk about consensus, it will flat out put in order the procedure for the consensus for finances, and I hope that we all understand that this is something that's needed to go forward, so there's not any questions.
Trustee Tate?
Trustee Williams, when you said for immediate checks, something would come out that says 48 hours to respond or something like that, will it also include the reason for that immediate check on it?
Yes.
Oh.
That's what I stressed with the finance director too, is that the way we got the accounts payable last week, it said check number 12345 to amount. This document provides more information. And if he was able to send out an email that said, let's use the gas again. We're out of gas, we need to get gas, I need to pay $7,000, blah, blah, blah. That provides information. That allows the trustees to know, yes, okay, I understand why we need to do this. Obviously, we can't wait for 3 weeks to have a board meeting, so we can have gas, because then we can send all our police department. So that was kind of what I explained as part of the board. I explained that that's why the board needs to have more information. We're the ones that are responsible for voting out the money. We need to know why we're saying yes or no. But in congruence with that, we also need to let the employees do their jobs. And to a certain point, a certain amount, they should be able to make the executive decision to say yes or no. If it gets above an amount, that's when we become in fire.
All right, and you will present that policy for the couple weeks. Okay. Trustee Burke?
Yes, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. First of all, what immediate checks are for, why we have immediate checks. I hate the fact that you're stating that from now on, there will be no consensus voting. If we have the reason for the immediate checks is because it was an emergency. The reason why we are speaking about this right now is because we had 16 items on there that I felt that was not immediate. Now, the immediacy was something that if they didn't pay, the lights would be cut out, that's immediate. However, we knew 2 weeks ago that if we didn't pay this bill, the lights were going to be cut out. No one sends you a bill and tells you if you don't pay it today, they cut them off tomorrow. They send you a bill telling you this is your due date, then this is your late date, then this is what you call. This is what we do with the water. We do the same thing with the water bill. You send the water bill out, then you send out a late notice, and then you send out a shut-off notice. So only thing I'm saying to cut it out, to say, okay, and then come back and say, well, your board, or the board of trustees, said they don't want any more immediate checks, so therefore, we cannot have gas, we cannot have this or that, even though gas is budgeted. And you should know that your bill is due. My question was, we had a meeting Tuesday. The immediate checks were issued that following Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday that same week. Why did we know that Tuesday, prior to the immediate checks, that we needed to have something or someone tell us that they already knew that they were waiting? Most times when you get immediate checks, it's because you're waiting on money to come in. That's why you get an immediate check, because the money is just not here in the village. It hasn't made it to our account. So therefore, we don't pay it. There's nothing wrong with saying, okay, board, we just got an influx of $500,000, $300,000, $400,000. We need to pay these things right now. That's what you would normally do with an immediate check. But don't use the immediate check to pay what you want and what you feel you think should be paid, because some of the things that were on immediate checks, I think it was an immediate emergency. Someone made that decision to make that an immediate emergency. But the premise of an immediate check is that we don't have the money in our coffers at this time. And money comes in every day. So please don't just, from now on, there will be no immediate checks, and if we get the lights cut off or we can't do this or that, it's your board's fault because I can't issue immediate check. That's not true. And I just want everyone to know what immediacy means and why we have done immediate checks in the past, but now it's gotten too much. We used to have 4, maybe 3 immediate checks. Now this was $105,000 worth of immediate checks, and yes, it threw a red flag to me, and that's why I brought it up.
Trustee Williams.
I think your original question was why we had them, and then you answered the question. You're right, because I asked the exact same question. A lot of the times we have an immediate check, and it's not because we don't know the light bill needs to get paid. It's because, or whatever, we may not have the money in said fund to pay that until, as I stated before, we have it right before the due date is there. So I don't know that it's fair to ask Mohan to send out an email that says, I might be asking y'all for a consensus on X, Y, and Z bill because it's due, but we don't have the money, so when we have the money, I'm going to ask. I don't know that that's necessarily the way that it should work. But when we have the money, that's when the immediate check came out. And the policy would be able to state, we give authority up until this amount. And once that policy is put into place, if that amount exceeds,
But we have to say policy, so we don't have policy before us tonight.
that's what the premise is, that will answer your question.
So, which we don't have a policy before us. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Trustee Jones.
Well, there is an on and off switch. I mean, if it's on, we just go and consent to everything, or if it's off, then we just don't consent to nothing. I mean, life just don't work like that. I mean, there are certain needs that need to be met, and I'm pretty sure that we all understand what needs need to be met and what checks need to be paid right away. And just to say no checks or to say all checks and just leave it as a gap, I mean, that's just being irrational.
So who makes that call?
The policy.
The policy. Because what you might think should be paid might be something else that Trustee Williams thinks should be paid, might be something else that Trustee Myers thinks should be paid, but Mohan's the one back there dealing with all the phone calls every day. He's the one that's dealing with all the vendors and what has to be paid. So, again, you have someone in that position who is in charge of the finance department and what knows what's to be paid. But you just made a statement that there's an on and off switch, but we know things have to be paid. But at the same time, this village board has said, stop. There has to be give and take. And it's funny is because I get blasted for doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing. And I say, okay, I'll stop and do what the board wants, but now all of a sudden, I'm not doing what the board wants. No. So, you say there's an on and off switch, but you know what? You have to make yourself, you have to explain yourself. It can't be based off of what Trustee Williams thinks or what Trustee Jones thinks. You know, if you understand what I'm saying. You can't say, I don't want consent, no, I don't use consent agenda, I'm a consent vote. You can't say, I don't want consent vote, and then turn around and say, but there's times that you can ask for a consent vote. You can't say, I don't want checks to be cut and paid prior to me voting, and then turn around and say, but there's exceptions to the rule. Who makes the exceptions to the rule? And that's why we said put a policy in place. So that we have a policy to follow. We have an ordinance in place so that we don't put the village in a deadlock and things don't get paid. Trustee Tiggs.
As I stated earlier, there are ongoing bills that we know have to be paid. They're your light, your gas, and who knows what the other things are in the village hall. So you know those have to be paid. But it comes down to, you said look forward, it comes down to planning what you're doing. If in fact it's true that we received an invoice in June and we just paid it in October as an immediate check, there's something broken in that system. You can't receive something, I don't fathom how you receive a bill and 5 months later you decide to pay it. There's something going on in between that gap where that bill could have been taken care of if the money was there. And several people have mentioned the money probably wasn't there. Okay, then if it was a late charge in July, it was a late charge in August, all the way up until October, then you still could have brought it to the board as appropriate to vote on. It was not an immediate check 5 months later.
Well, and I will answer this because before you came on the board, that's the way things were done. When the village got a bill, it was presented to the board on accounts payable to pay. The problem was checks were cut and the checks were left on the back desk because there was no money there. I came in here with about over $1 million worth of checks sitting on the back desk. Okay? So when I came in here, I said from now on, we're not going to present until we have the money available. So that checks are not just getting written and sitting on a desk somewhere. And someone going back and saying, okay, we got the money now to pay this, so I'll pay this one. And their problem they had is because the checks weren't good for a certain amount of time, they ended up finding themselves voiding out checks because the checks were no longer good because, what was it, 500,000 after I came on board because we found these checks sitting here. So when you say, okay, there's a bill going all the way back to 3 or 4 months, well, granted, that bill is there, but it's not getting presented to the board until we have the money. And when you look at the money, the village doesn't have an account with $1 million sitting in here where we just pay bills. The way it happens is as the money comes in, sales tax, residential real estate tax, utility taxes, that money comes in, we see that money come in, and then that money is spent paying those bills, those invoices that we have.
But the issue is still is not an immediate check.
I think what would be looked at is the fact that there's a late fee, July, August, September. If you can avoid a late fee for October, that's a cost saving. We talk about we have no money. If we have the money and we're able to pay it, and we can avoid a late fee if we pay it before this date, that is something to consider. That would be a part of what would be the policy. If the money comes in and we can make a payment, we can save one more late charge. That's $50 more that we're going to save. And $50 isn't a whole lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, lots of $50 bills add up. So that's when we would put it on finance director and use his foresight and his ability to be able to say, we've got this money, we can finally clear this money off of our books, let's finally pay it. But again, one of the things that I did talk about was foresight. If we know that we have the money and we know that a bill is going to be due, then we have to be able to say that we can put this on the account table in enough time. But sometimes that it's not there. Sometimes our bills and our money are not at the same time, and we have to pay them when we get them. And that's when we have to put the finance director, put him in his responsibility of telling us when we have the money, when we can pay the bills. And as long as there's an explanation behind that, I don't see that that's a problem. Not everything needs to be an immediate check. I don't disagree with you. But if we see that we finally have money where we can pay this bill, why put it off 2 weeks? We've had times where we haven't had meetings for 3 weeks in a row. That could occur another meeting or another late fee. If there's a possibility to do it, I think we should do it, and that's what this policy would state.
Okay, as the mayor stated earlier, I'll just reserve any further thoughts until I see the policy.
Right.
Let's discuss it.
Anything else on this one? All right, let's go ahead and move to item number 3. It's trustee meeting again. You gonna be an hour on this one also?
I hope not.
Me too. Review of IML presentation, I understand, trustee Williams.
I know I stated before that I went to, on the first night, there was a conference, or there was a session that was called United We Stand by Fall, and I know the mayor was there. So at that time, it was presented by Angela Glick, and they went over some things that different boards in different areas of Illinois kind of have confronted, and they came up with the questions and answers. And at that time, I decided to grab the topics for everybody so that you guys would have them in your possession and that you would use them as reference material. I personally kind of checked some from the meeting, and I went through and kind of highlighted some that I think are pertinent to this board. But I think it's something that you guys can do reference. I highlighted on my own.
Oh. I'll say there's nothing highlighted in
No,
there.
I highlighted my own copy. Things that I kind of wanted to present, like I said, that are going through this board. So if you could look at number 5 of page 2.
Maybe these are your answers.
There's not many. Does everybody have questions and answers?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Are you ready? Because this was the first one I called it. Okay. So number 5, what kind of public body will a member of the legislative body will not follow procedural rules and disrupt the meeting? I think that it's important. I think sometimes we think trustees may be getting unruly, or the board maybe, or the audience may be getting unruly. So I'm not going to go through all these different answers, but these are things that I think you should look at and kind of know how to proceed. Number 7, I think this happens a lot. What can we do with elected officials who keep interrupting each other? Again, it's important to know that there are rules and order for government, so I would ask that you guys kind of review that on your own too, to see if maybe we can be better about interrupting each other.
That doesn't happen.
Number 16. This is something that I reviewed, or that I would like to bring attention. I'm actually going to talk about because it's been presented to us from the audience members. Can a trustee be entitled to address the village board for unlimited periods of time and on unlimited occasions with the same or different motions? The audience members have often stated that they get a timeline to talk, and they get a topic to talk about. But the board members are able to kind of just go off and say whatever they want to, for however long they want to. And the question was, can a board member do that? Can they talk about whatever they want, for however long they want? And it says right here, no. That there does mean that if there's a procedural rule put into place, that the board can be sanctioned to time limits and to topic limits. And it's something that I think maybe, as the ordinance review committee, maybe something we want to look into, trustee Meyer. It's something that's been brought up by the audience plenty of times, and now we know that it's something that can be put in place. Number 23. This is something that has happened in the past. It's happened from what I understand, it's happening with currently with this administration. Can an alderman direct or assign municipal employees? You read this, it'll tell you, no, not the kind of government that we have. We cannot walk up to the police chief or the fire chief and say, I want this done, I'm a trustee, you need to do it. Okay? We don't have that kind of government. So I just want to make sure, I know that it's come out, the audience has said that this has happened. Board trustees have stated that things have attempted to be done that way. I don't know if it's true, I'm just pointing out to the board that this is not something that can happen. Number 40. Again, this falls in with what the audience members talked about as time limits for the board. And this is just, it's kind of saying the same thing. As long as there's a procedure in place and that all trustees get an opportunity to speak, then yes, there can be limits. And again, it's something I think we should look at.
You'd be in trouble tonight.
Oh, well, you pay me out here. Number 41, how can we prevent a board member from repeatedly revisiting the issue after it has been decided? Again, I often find myself doing this. I don't say the words point of order, but I try to regain order, and it is something that I know that I've been talked about doing. But it is something that I'm within my rights as a board member to do. Often you'll hear me say after, we've been talking about this for 30 minutes. You're going to go yes, you're going to go no, whatever, take a vote. And that's basically calling a point of order. Once things have been talked about, once the thing has been decided, it does not need to go back and forth, and any trustee has the ability to call for a point of order. Number 42, what can we do on a board member who repeatedly interrupts other members? Again, we talked about that. As long as we adopt the rule, that there can be something that we can do to kind of try to prevent that. What can we do if a board member has taken over debate on a particular agenda item and refuses to let other board members speak or give the floor back to the president? That has happened too. We've asked for both audience members and board members to relinquish the floor, and they continue interrupting or something like that. And again, this is just call to question. You have the ability as a board member to alleviate that and call that board member to question, so that they don't keep continuously over-speaking other people and not providing the opportunity for people to participate in the conversation.
That's an important one because, remember, call to question brings the item to vote.
Number 45, can a member of the public demand an answer to a question from a board member or staff member during public comment? This is an important one. I know that we have a lot of time people come up and they say, I want an answer. Again, the question is, can a member of the public demand an answer to a question from a board member or staff member during public comment? The answer to that is no. Members of the public have the right to address members of the public body, but they have no right to interrogate them or library staff members, and the PAC agreement agreed in recent non-binding opinions. So again, I know that this may not be a very popular answer, but it is per anti-linguic, per state statute. No, you can ask as many questions as you want, but that does not mean you're going to get an answer to them. Number 46, are citizens allowed to speak about every issue at the time it comes before the board? No. The answer to that is no. The time for citizens' questions and comments can be limited as long as the rule is fairly implemented and the board has adopted a written policy for public comment. So I know that the public comment is an ordinance that is still being reviewed, but again, the board is within its rights to limit the topic of conversation. This does not violate the Open Meetings Act or Robert's Rules of Order. Number 48, can a public body remove a member of the public from a meeting for being disruptive? Yes. The Attorney General found no violation in the OMA or Typically, this is not something that there seems to be a problem here, but if a certain board member has a problem with what the minute says, and the board does not agree to approve the minutes with that change, that is not a violation. The board has to, if I say I don't like sentence 3 in the minutes, and nobody else agrees with me, it doesn't matter. I'll just go home not liking sentence 3. There's nothing that says we have to require the clerk to change the minutes.
Can I just interrupt to say that it does say the board member could submit a letter of disagreement and ask that it be made part of the permanent record. That will be there.
Number 57, the statement in question read, our meetings routinely last until midnight. If we have a time limit to our meetings, how can we shorten them? Something else that we talked about in the public comment ordinance, we are within our rights to establish a standard ending time of meetings. The Illinois Municipal League Handbook has a list of tools to run effective meetings. This would include the use of a consent agenda, effective use of committees, and other tips. Number 58, we only have one meeting in the summer, and we have bills that we receive between meetings that have to be paid before our meeting. Can we authorize our mayor or administrator to pay them between meetings? This is extremely pertinent for tonight. Yes, you can adopt a resolution for routine payment of bills of certain utilities, etc. Be sure you establish a dollar cap for the expenditures and ratify them at your meeting. So again, as long as we have a policy that's put into place that says we can do that, it can be done. But key note here, we still have to ratify them at the meeting, which is what we would do. The media checks are written. Ratifying them means we vote on them at the next available board meeting. And those will be the only ones that I identified. But again, this is something that I think was extremely informational. When the mayor and I were in this meeting, this is something that I think I learned a lot from. And it was on the first day, it was early, and I really do wish that it was later on in the conference, because a lot of people, because of work, don't get there at 2:45. And I think a lot of people could have really benefited from this. So I don't know who downloaded the IML app. If you still have it, if you're still able to get this document, it might be good to kind of just keep in your repertoire for electronics. There's a whole PowerPoint presentation that's on there. So I would suggest that you have that. But this is my big response. That's all.
Any other questions or comments on this? All right, hearing none, we'll go to public comment. Question and comments will be directed to the mayor. The speaker will be given 3 minutes to comment on topics of their choice. Each speaker will be allowed 1 opportunity to speak.
Larry Stewart, Sauk Village. I was going to talk about something else, but this seems to have been very important. It seems like it's ongoing about we have an elected mayor. He's elected. We have an elected board of trustees. We have an appointed finance director. Now we're about to appoint a finance committee. It seems like we already have the problem and we put the solution in front of it as we just done it. It was a problem. But to supersede and say that our board, that we don't need you, that's what I'm hearing. We're going to put a finance committee to supersede our board. They got that science. The finance director should be responsible on letting you know when things are due, not just pay them when he does or late as it may be have done. It seems like he failed the job and we want to look at it, but that's okay. Because we don't have a consensus to say it, it's all right. But it should have been said. The board didn't know? No, they seem not to have known. The mayor didn't know? Seems like the mayor didn't know. These are elected officials. I didn't want to talk about this, but I'm listening to this. It sounds well orchestrated, well planned, but faulty all the way along the line. But you all think about it yourselves. If you think what you're doing is right, go along with it. But I damn sure hope that you're right when it's time to go to jail. See, because it's wrong. You can't put somebody in front of some lowly person on a finance committee in front of a trustee. Finance director is not over a trustee. How does that sound? He has to answer to the mayor. The mayor don't have to answer to him. And it seems like that's what we're doing. Where are we going with this? And you know, I wanted to talk about things other than that, like the racism in Sauk Village, the divide between the board. These are issues that's going on, right, as you look at it here. Is it bad? We don't divide the board up and go, you can't say nothing, because it's not a consensus. Tell me when I'm through, Debbie. I'm through.
All right, just so we clear something up, because Mr. Stewart doesn't really understand, the Budget and Finance Committee is made up of 2 trustees, so they're not made up of residents, they're made up of trustees. Next.
Thank you. I'm on Parks and Recreation, and I'm trying to get a program through playing basketball. But it seems like it's put aside, and it's not going to be this year. I'd like to find out why somebody stopped planning the program and not have it this year. And what's the reason for it, if there is a reason? And if there's any questions, I'll answer them.
Do you have anything else?
I'd like to find out why we're not having a basketball program. I'd like whoever I can direct this problem to.
How much time? Okay. Just real quick. And again, I'll make the statement so that, you know, even people in the audience understand. This is not a debate or going back and forth, so what we do is allow residents to come up, you can respond, you know, like I said at the beginning, with questions or comments, you get 3 minutes to speak. But, you know, even if I do have a trustee that wants to respond, number one, it's up to the trustee if he wants to respond, I'll turn the floor over if he wants to. But there will be no comment back and forth. If you want to have a conversation with the trustee, if you want to have communication back and forth, that would have to be after the meeting. So I just want to make sure it's very clear. So that's why I asked, do you have anything else you want to say? And if there's not, that means you're going to yield the floor.
No, I do. I have gone to the trustee, and I've asked him to have a meeting with me. I've asked him to have a meeting with me with you, and he declined to do so. And I'd like to find out why. And all I get an answer is, it's not going to happen.
All right, anything else?
I guess that's all.
Okay. Trustee, would you like to respond? Or okay.
Mr. Sullivan, now, I mean, you have my phone number. We've spoken. I don't know. I give you an answer. I don't know. Are you looking for a different answer out in public? But I mean, we've spoken on this matter, and that's just what the conclusion we came up with. I mean, that's it. I don't have to say anything other than what we already spoken of.
And what conclusion is this?
There's no debate. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Is there not a basketball program this year, or?
I'm working on a basketball program.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you're working on that.
Yes, I'm working on it.
Okay. Now, I would suggest if you have any other questions afterwards, if you have any additional questions, see the trustee afterwards. And then,
Can I say one more thing?
sorry, we already used the floor. Okay. So, sorry. We have to be consistent with all residents. So, and I was a little bit, again, I explained a little bit more to the residents, so you can finish your questions, but we have to go to the next.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Bernice Brewer, on behalf of the Sauk Village Citizens for Public Awareness,
On September 15th, the Senior Relaxation Committee submitted a letter requesting that the mayor and the board address issues related to the senior committee chairperson and the use of the senior center. Even though the Senior Relaxation Committee had a meeting with the mayor and the village manager, neither one of you guys have gotten back to anybody on the senior committee, on the Senior Relaxation Committee. The Senior Relaxation Committee requests that they run their programs on the second and fourth Friday of every month between 12 and 4. However, the senior committee chairperson has overstepped her boundaries and denied the Senior Relaxation Committee the use of the senior center. The chairman has decided to run her own program during that time. In an effort to keep out the Senior Relaxation Organization, the chairperson has assigned an overseer, those are her words, not mine, to run an activity program on the same time that the Relaxation Committee has asked for the time. The overseer has intimidated and harassed several senior relaxation members. The senior committee has repeatedly told the Senior Relaxation Committee that they have to pay to use the committee center. She has also repeatedly required the Senior Relaxation Committee to adhere to unwritten policies and procedures, nothing that's in writing and nothing that's in power. Keep in mind, there are 4 other active senior groups that use the center and not subjected to the chairman's racist whims and harassment by the overseer. We request that this board put this on the agenda so we can address this before this issue get out of hand. We have asked the mayor and the village clerk to address this issue, however, nothing has gotten back, and something needs to be done about why taxpayer residents, senior residents, cannot use the senior center. There's an Illinois state statute that says any inhabitant of a village can use the senior center. We want to know why we can't use the center without this harassment. I do believe that we are in our right by asking for this, and we ask that the board address this issue.
Anything else?
I'm yielding the floor, and I'm waiting for an answer when we can have a meeting and get something resolved here.
All right. All right, we'll go next. I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Okay.
My concern is about the financial committee. When Mohan have a right to write out checks, it don't look right to us. At least it don't look right to me. If he have a right to write out checks for something that's supposed to be an emergency, because I listened to Burgess and he was saying there were like 16 things on there that he didn't think was an emergency, or something that was that important that could have waited. And so what I'm saying is, if a person is a trustee and he can get with Mohan and they can come up with schemes. So what I'm saying, you can come up with a scheme, but you need to just village citizenship needs to be able to trust the village. They need to be able to trust the people that they elect. They need to be able to trust the mayor. And so, I don't care who it is, one person shouldn't have the authority just to okay something. Unless that only person that should have that authority would have to be the mayor on certain emergency issues. If it's an emergency issue like fire or whatever, gas being off in the winter time from the village and all of that, you don't have no special place for homeless people to go and all of that, then, Mohan can write out checks and whatever, not like that. But the board should definitely be contacted. They should be contacted before anything is found. Whether you have a meeting in the village hall or not, everybody should know about it. That's on the board.
I just want to make one statement for panel that, Mr. Mohan, Mr. Rowe, number one, he's an employee of this village. I'm going to tell you right now, number one, there's no scheming on how to pay. Mr. Rowe does a very good job looking at what needs to be paid. He's the one that's dealing with these contractors, he's dealing with the people calling in and wanting to get paid daily. And Mr. Raoul doesn't just write checks. I mean, there's a lot of checks and balances here. Mr. Raoul goes through the accounts, he has to put everything that we pay is according to our budget, which was approved. It has to go down to line items. He works with our department heads on certain items that need to be paid. Because the department heads, the police chief standing right there, I'm sure he gets calls and says, hey, I want to pay for those tires. He's saying, yeah. No, he's coming in that office telling Mr. Raoul, I got a vendor who wants to pay for his tires. And he's got the police chief, fire chief coming in and saying, I got someone who wants to pay for those fire hoses we got last week. So he's taking a lot of pressure, and he's out there, he's doing a great job, and I stand behind him. He doesn't just write checks. We talk about checks and balances. So he works very hard, and the poor guy has less hair on his head today than he had when he started. He's almost bald. So go ahead.
Frank Williams, 1633 to 16th Place in Sauk Village. I sit here and I listen to the comments and the question that you trustees going back and forward. You know what I don't understand is hard for me until we sit down and let the mayor be the mayor instead of always going behind his back trying to do. I think this is just one thing that I look at. Take me for an example. My wife's sitting right there. She can tell you my social security card number and everything else about me. What I mean by that is called trust. You must trust the mayor to do his job. You can sit here and tell about, well, we want the check that have to be sent. I think for one time that you look at it until he do something wrong with the check, then let him do his job. This thing that she was reading off there right now, you always talk about the state statute. The state statute comes in effect when Sauk Village statute is not ruled right. The state statute will overrule that, but you have a statute here in the village that says the same thing almost. For an example, if you would say I want to put 40 miles an hour down Sauk Trail, that is Sauk Village statute, as long as you're responsible for it. Second thing is I would like to see to put in order that we come to this board meeting for business, not to sit here big backing and going on with that stuff. You get your package on Friday night, am I right? Then read your package. If you have a problem, go to whoever you're going to have that problem with, and not to wait till you come to this board meeting. That's the way I look at it, and I hope that that's what we start doing from tonight forward.
Most trustees have it in their box by Sunday night. But a lot of things like Mohan, he gets the constable winner by Fridays, because he's not here on Saturdays and Sundays.
Rose Langston. I want to thank Trustee Williams. I think she did an excellent job. And even making a proposal on a budget and finance committee, I think that's in the right direction. And I truly love her presentation on the IML presentation. It's something that I think all the trustees should really take heart and read and follow the directions there. Because it is, I think some of the things were brought up in Meet the Mayor meeting, and she did expand on things, and I think it's really a wonderful thing. She did a terrific job. Congratulations, Trustee Williams. I do want to mention that this coming Friday is the Sauk Village social activity from 12:30 to 3:30. And we welcome the seniors. Some of the seniors have been having a lot of fun with the Rummy Cup game. They enjoyed it so much they're asking that we run a tournament. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move to miscellaneous business comments from trustees.
I just want to remind everybody single bus trip for Shop at the Cop. There are flyers on the table. The casino trip will be Wednesday, November 11th, and it'll be from 12:30 to 7:30. The bus will leave here at 12:30. The registration ends Thursday, November 5th. So all money, the $35 that it will pay for the trip, all money will be due here on the back table for the holiday food basket collection. We did discuss this a couple different times in board meetings. The village and the community partnership committee are trying to put together 50 food baskets for Sauk Village residents. And so on here is a list of items that we're looking for. Again, the flyer is on the back table, but we are looking for each basket to contain 2 cans of corn, 2 cans of green beans, a box of instant potatoes, a box of brown mix, 2 boxes of Jimmy corn bread mix, 1 large can of sweet potatoes, and 1 box of stove top or instant stuffing. All items can be donated to the village hall during local business hours. And I did not put it on this flyer, but obviously if you come on a Tuesday night and got items, we will accept the donation at that time. We will be accepting donations through December 11th. And Cookies, Carol, and Warm will be, Thursday, December 17th. And the baskets will be distributed at that time on a first come, first served.
Trustee Burton.
Thank you. We had our public workshops meeting we had last Wednesday, and there were some things brought to our attention that they wanted, the administrator wanted to look at in the ordinance. And we did look at one, so Trustee Myers will be presenting to you some of the changes we would like to see or amended in the ordinance, number 94-4. Also, our next, this is for the 94-4. This is for the establishment of services. This is in section 2, item number D that we spoke about. We were presented with C, D, and then in section 6, B. We looked at all 3 and we decided that we were going to present to the board an amendment to section D and D only, but we have to make sure we write it up right, present it to you, and then I guess you would bring it. What? Thank you. Okay. And that was one of the things that we talked about at our committee meeting, which meets every second Wednesday at 7 o'clock here at the village board. Also at the Intergovernmental Housing Committee, I know we talked about it, and we're going to have Thursday a home buyers workshop here in the village at 6:30. I have flyers in the back if anyone needs any to pass out to other people, but this is going to be not just for Sauk Village, it's going to be all over the south suburbs. So we got people coming out to explain how you can get a $7,500 down payment to assist you in your closing costs. And then also there will be people here to explain other things. So come out with your questions. If you know anyone that's looking for a home or looking to relocate, please come out and we'll have someone here. We're going to have a slide presentation. Basically we have experts out here to assist you into getting the down payment. It is a process. I'm sure they're not going to give you the money just because, so there is a process that you have to adhere to, but this is something, and I understand that this is not just $7,500. It can be for the entire cost of the closing and for the down payment, and sometimes it can be more than that. Also, on the 11th, that will be November 11th, at 11 o'clock a.m., we will be having a Veterans Day celebration here. If you know any veteran that's in the village or anyone that's part of your family that was a veteran, please have them come out. We have a celebration. It'll be here. We have some things that we're going to pass out to the veterans. And afterwards, we're going to have a small luncheon. So if anyone knows of any veterans that are here in the village or family members of veterans that are here in the village, have them to come out at 11 o'clock, November 11th. And lastly, a town hall meeting will be tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Village Hall. I had asked for this last week to be presented, and put on the bulletin board, but for some reason it was not. It was told not to put that up, to put the trick or treat, which is on the 31st of the month. Instead, that's what you see up there now. So just wanted to let everyone know tomorrow is the town hall meeting at 7 o'clock here in Village Hall. Thank you. Which one?
Well, the housing one, I asked at least twice. Get it on to me so I can utilize it. And the veterans one, is there something?
The veterans one you put up there already.
I put it out in the, what I put out, what's happening?
Yes.
Okay, do you have a flyer that's inviting veterans? I hope it's.
I have a program. I'll have to get that to you. Yes. Okay.
Trustee Tate.
The housing seminar, invitations were sent out to the village clerks in our surrounding areas, primarily. And the flyer was attached to it. It was sent to you twice. Maybe you should give her, if I said it twice and she didn't get it, maybe you should just give her a hard copy. Well, but I sent it to her twice and she didn't get it, so it doesn't make sense to keep sending it. So we will have people there from the surrounding communities, hopefully, because I think we're all facing the same housing crises in the south suburbs. So they've been invited. They've been told to advise their boards and their residents. So we're probably going to have some people here that don't live in Sauk Village, but they're coming out to get the information. And I think it's going to benefit us all overall. And I think it's a good way to have a good work relationship with some of the other villages. We're reaching out to them and we say, we're sponsoring this, please come out. And maybe they'll take that as a way of us reaching out to them and form a good working relationship with them. So that's on that note. On the 11th is, 11th November is the Veterans Celebration. And I was just advised that one of our village residents is feeling a little under weather, and I'd like you to keep him in your prayers, and that's Mr. Diamond, Claude Diamond. Met him last year for the first time, but I understand he's a little under weather, so keep him in your prayers, and if you know him, go by and say hello. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Jones.
The trick-or-treating hours are from 4 to 6. That's the trick-or-treat, not the trunk-or-treat. And I didn't say it last time. But the trunk-or-treat is going to be Saturday, October 31st, 2015, 1 to 4. And the parade is going to start at Rickover. And we're going to march down. There will be judging for best costume for the kids, and there will be judging for best costume for your pets. And then we will march down to the community center, and prizes will be given out, and there will be cars there with their trunks decorated and nice and spooky and everything, and to pass out candy. And we should have a good time. And also, on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015, this is the 5th annual Community Fest. In collaboration with the schools, District 168, Parks and Recs will have a table there, and we will be displaying new programs and taking ideas on some programs that hopefully will be coming up shortly too. So everyone should check that out. That's Tuesday, November 3rd. It's going to be at Rickover Junior High from 4:30 to 6:30. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I've heard a lot of interesting things tonight, and I wanted to go on record that I did not say or vote that I do not want consensus. I'm not gonna personally vote for or do anything that's gonna endanger this village with immediate checks, especially if there's a fire or a water main break or lights about to be turned off or something that's pertinent, that's really, really pressing, but they need to write an immediate check. I did not say that I did not want a consensus outcome part of that. I didn't know about that. Also, I want to say that the presentation that you did, Trustee Williams, in regard to the finance, I thought it was very nice. I see you put a lot of work into that format just to get that together. I guess I'm kind of confused with the chairs and the co-chairs. I thought that Trustee Burgess was working with finance. At one point, I know I did hear that, and then I thought when I heard the mayor, the mayor took you off of finance. I just would, ask, since there is no one that wants to be on it with Trustee Williams, if you would, if the mayor would put you back on it. They should do a good job doing it, and that's what you want to do, and nobody else wants to do it. I mean, that's a very important position to have, and watching the finances of the village. I have complimented you several times privately and publicly about,
It'd be a good thing for you to learn how to do that. Since you're a trustee, it'd be a great job for you to get your feet wet with the finances, coming in as a second year, going to your third year. I've done that, been there, got a t-shirt. It'd be a good thing for you to really get involved.
I never got a t-shirt.
I did.
And you know what, I concur, and I have already talked to Mohan about coming to talk to him, but not being on that committee. Because most of the times when Trustee Williams can meet, it's not feasible for me to meet. But nevertheless, I was giving you a compliment, but I thank you for your advice to me. In conclusion to what I was still saying, I thought that you were on finance, and then I thought that I did hear that the mayor put Trustee Tate on finance. I heard something about he was on the school board, and that's why he made that decision to put him on finance. But I do hope that soon, Trustee Williams, you can get someone to be on that committee with you that can make the meeting times that's available for you. And with the presentation from IML, as far as trustees being able to speak for so long and having a time limit, sometimes there are trustees that have nothing to say. They have no report, no meetings, no comments. And sometimes you have trustees that's working feverishly and have a lot to say. So if you don't have meetings or you don't ever, do anything, you have nothing to say. But people that talk a lot are usually people that's doing a lot. And in conclusion to my comments, I just want to let people know that the Neighborhood Watch will be having our meeting, as we always do, on the second Monday of every month. This coming November the 12th, we will be having a deputy registers class for those that want to be deputy registers. As a community service, Neighborhood Watch will be sponsoring that at the fire station at 7 o'clock. And in December, we will be having our annual Neighborhood Watch Christmas party. And that concludes my report.
Trustee Murray.
Just one thing, I will have a ordinance committee meeting, special meeting this Thursday, because the last one, I wasn't able to make it. This one here, it's going to be closed off either. It will be Thursday, 7 p.m. here. Rosie, thanks for the information, there's a lot of good stuff in there. And thank you. Just remember, both you and Derek, remember, please give me a draft of stuff where I can get it in, get it looked at, and able to present it to the board. And the quicker the better I can get it in and out and back to you guys. And the one ordinance is, the one ordinance will be, probably in about a week, will be presented back to the board. If they're all the I's dotted and the T's are crossed, presented back to the board. That's only public comments. I'm not promising, but it looks like we're about ready to wrap that up. After that, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The training, so subject what I was saying that the board has, there is some fun stuff in here also. I know the chief would like this one. It says, someone is flying a drone over the 4th of July parade. Can our police department shoot it down? Chief, I'm sorry, but the answer is no. But you can't issue a ticket report to the FAA, so you can keep that in your hat, right? So, but there's some fun things in there. Again, it's funny to us, but it's sad to think about there's communities that have had these issues across the state of Illinois. And as you can see, the trustee had a bunch of things that highlighted she thought it pertained to our board. There's other boards across the entire state of Illinois that have the same issues. So, you know, there's nothing new happening here. But also want to make sure, first of all, say thank you to everyone that came out to the community clean sweep. I had a great day. The Boy Scouts came out. There was committee members from the beautification committee, the housing commission, and I know I'm gonna miss someone. But there was a lot of people out. But we had a guest that came out and helped. That was State Representative L.G. Simmons. He was out here helping, and in fact, both him and I were out there in the corner of 394 and Sauk Trail picking up garbage. And we also, while we were working, got to talk about some of the things in our village and some things we're facing. We got to give some great updates about what's happening down in Springfield. So I know some people think we have problems here. Believe me, you don't want to be in Springfield. So we were talking, kind of give you an idea, we talked about the budget. The budget is more likely not even going to be discussed the rest of this year. There's only approximately three more days that they're going to be in session, and they're already talking about the last day they're canceling. Okay? They're not even looking at this year's budget to even come back until probably March of next year. Now think about this. You know, we have to come to the table. We got to talk, right? As elected officials. They haven't even come to the table in Springfield. The two sides. So there's a lot going on in Springfield. And there's a lot of nothing happening in Springfield. So, and here's another thing. You think about your state representatives usually have a certain amount of time off because they all have their own jobs also, right? They've been in session nonstop. So it's pretty different this year for them. And like I said, they've got their problems, and we're hoping it's going to get resolved. And if you've been watching the news, we've seen two former governors just last week come out and tell the governor to come up to the table. You saw Governor Thompson, former Governor Thompson, you saw former Governor Egger. Both came and trying to get Governor Rauner to come to the table. Because it's not helping our state, it's hurting our state, it's hindering our state. I'm part of mayors and managers. I was in a mayors and managers meeting this last week. And we had Brad Cole, who's the executive director for the Illinois Municipal League, came and gave us an update, some things happening in Springfield, and some of the things that as mayors, we're going to really be pushing this next year. And there is some major issues when it comes to pension reform, when it comes to getting the budget passed. There's like four or five other things I got written down and I was in the car. But things that we're going to really be pushing this next year. But the first thing that has to happen is you have to get the budget passed. So we're really going to be pushing our state representatives and getting from both sides of the aisle to come to the table. We've got to face each other first. So keep an eye on what's happening down there. I was at Dunkin' Donuts this afternoon. Dunkin' Donuts is having a total facelift. I got to go through. They've got all new equipment that's going in there tomorrow night, I think, or tomorrow they plan on reopening. So they're probably going to be working late tonight. There's still a lot that they're working on. But the owner and the manager, they're really proud of all the work that they're doing. They put in about like $15,000, I think he said, just into their water system. They put in a large reverse osmosis, a water softener, total redoing water, because they said that was one of the complaints they got from the people coming in. So, you know, they just had it tested and everything, and it's just as good as Lake Michigan water, he told me. He said that's what people ask. So they put a lot of money into that. I asked them about the Baskin-Robbins side. Why did they remove the ice cream? It was a financial issue. He gave me some examples. You know, he said they had 31 flavors, right? They only have approximately 4 or 5 flavors, which is their key flavors that they would actually be able to sell. And there's strict guidelines. He said that once they opened up one of those, 3-gallon tubs, they have 14 days to sell that ice cream. He said they had 5 or 6 flavors that they would sell completely out of, and every time they opened it, they would sell. They had the other 20-some flavors that they get anywhere from a quarter to two-thirds of the way down, and have to throw the rest of it away because of the strict standards. So it was a financial issue about putting the Baskin-Robbins out there, but they put a lot of money into the Dunkin' Donuts. He said they've got some new stuff coming out. They've got their new smoothie machine, which was delivered today. He showed me. He said they're going to start having smoothies. So looking at doing a re-grand opening during the month of November. He's going to let me know when that's going to happen. But I told him I was here tonight to make sure I let the residents know that he's planning on reopening again tomorrow. So make sure if you want to get a cup of coffee with that great tasting water. I get in there and get some coffee, get some donuts, and again, support a local business, which is really important. So the next week, the mayor is going to be November the 14th. We've got a guest speaker already lined up for the 14th. So we'll have if everything works out, we'll have a guest speaker here. So tell your neighbors and things, and friends and family about Saturday the 14th, and then. We're planning on doing something for the veterans that day also. So if you have any veterans that want to come out, we'll have something for them on that Saturday the 14th. That's the Saturday after Veterans Day. All right, with that said, ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. Meeting adjourned.